If you were to ask me, Shelley, do you read a lot of new releases? I would probably tell you, no, not really. So I actually investigated to see whether that was true or not, even if I feel like I don't read a lot of new releases. And much to my surprise, I've read 9 new releases out of the 65 books I've read this year. And I thought I would discuss whether they were worth it or not. Just a quick word about new releases. I think that those who read a lot of new releases and review a lot of new releases are really frontline readers. They are there, like taking one for the team, reporting back whether a book is worth it or not, especially if there's like no real consensus yet about the way the public has reacted to that book. So they're really the ones out there diving into the deep end and seeing whether a book is good or not. And I don't think of myself as that kind of reader. I tend to hang back a little bit. I want to see some trusted reviewers, I don't know, tell me whether the book was worth it or not. I want to assess its strengths and weaknesses. I want to make an informed decision about whether the book is for me or not. So here are the 9 books that I jumped out. What metaphor am I going with? I am on the front lines and I dove off the diving board into the deep end. And I decided to take one for the team and read the less reviewed books out there. So if you're new to my channel, just know that I'm Shelley. I can be kind of silly, and I have a real joy and passion for books and reading. So if you're enjoying the vibe, maybe subscribe. Mostly excited that we're hanging out. And without any further rambling on, let's go ahead and get into the meat of this video. For all of our sakes, let me quickly define what I mean by new releases. I mean books that were published in 2024 or 2025. 7 out of my 9 books were published in 2024, and only 2 of them were published in 2025. That seems pretty, I don't know, that seems pretty in line with my reading. Again, I kind of hang back. So even if I hang back for 6 months, 8 months, 9 months, that's hanging back for me. And so again, some of these are going to have been published the previous year, but I still think of them as rather new releases. So let's talk about the worst of these new releases and we'll build to the best. The worst for me was Diva by Daisy Goodwin. This is the story of the opera singer Maria Calais, or Callis. I want to say Calais because it's more, it's like French, but I think it's pronounced Callis. Maria Callis. She was a famous opera singer from Greece that ended up having a relationship with Aristotle Onassis, who I don't know much about him. I know that he married Jackie Kennedy, but I came to find out through the book that he is like incredibly wealthy. And that is like an understatement. To say he's incredibly wealthy is an understatement, okay? And he has a relationship with Maria Calais. And it was really more about their relationship. I think the book was billed as, you know, this opera singer as a child was forced to sing for Nazi soldiers, even though she didn't really want to. And it wasn't necessarily about expectations versus reality, because sometimes when a book is not what I expected, it surprises me in the best way, and it still ends up being a fantastic read. I feel like this book was just very middling. I didn't care for the main character. I didn't care for Aristotle Onassis. Ooh, I got coffee. Someone's bringing me coffee. Thank you, Bugaboo. Delivery. By the end of the story, you could see the arc, you know, what Daisy Goodwin was trying to do. And I was like, oh yeah, this confirms I just really wasn't invested in the premise of the book at all. There was also this theme about how an opera singer only has so many songs and so many performances in her. And so you don't want to use them all. You don't want to like strain your voice. And as one who has sung, and then there were comments when I made that comment earlier, when I first reviewed this book, there were comments about how that is just not true. That's just not true. That you don't just, your voice does not have like a limited amount of performances in it. And so it just seemed like maybe Goodwin didn't know quite what she was writing about in terms of an opera singer. The premise of this affair between Maria and Aristotle, I was not in. And, yeah, and it was not for me at all. So I think that was my least favorite new release. Okay, let's just go to, next I would say, next up would be Tide for, the next rung on the bottom. And I know that so many people love these books, so, just continue to love what you love. And that I don't think any less of anybody if you love what you love, like we can disagree and still be friends. So the next would be Nesting by Roisin O'Donnell and All the Colors of the Dark by Chris Whitaker. So Nesting is about a woman who is in an abusive relationship, an emotionally abusive relationship, and she decides at the very beginning of the book that she needs to go. And so her struggle is that she has truly no resources, and she's trying to rebuild her life, having just really having life against her, because she has immigrated to, either she's Irish and she's immigrated to England, or she's English and she immigrated to Ireland. I cannot remember. So not only because of her immigration status, but her history, her work history, the fact that she has children, it's all these barriers to rebuild her life, while also still being in contact with her emotionally abusive husband, because she's still married to him and she has these children who, he is their father. So it's this navigation of how do you rebuild in this situation. The first half was, I thought, a strong read. And it read like a debut, which it was a debut, and it's a strong debut. It's not like it was a horrible debut. It's just that the second half was truly less interesting, less dramatic in a lot of ways. It was just far less than the beginning that was so good. It was just, so even though it's next up on the rung of books, it was still an enjoyable read. It just wasn't I didn't love it. Okay. And then also, All the Colors of the Dark is right there with it. By Chris Whitaker. So this is a mystery, a murder mystery, or is it just a mystery? Is there a murder that takes place? Maybe that's the problem. It's kind of forgettable. In this, we have, a couple of main characters. That's the problem. It really is forgettable. I'm sitting here thinking, what was this book about? So ultimately, there's a traumatic event that happens in the childhood of these main characters, and it's the way that this event has shaped their life, their friends. I know one of them is named Patch. I should be more prepared. But anyways, so you have this traumatic event that happens at the beginning, and you follow them through their lives and how much this event has truly shaped their lives. It just, I don't know. It was forgettable because I think it was just all served up to you on a platter. It was there. It made really good escapist literature, but with zero stick-to-itiveness, clearly. But if you want just a pure escapist murder mystery, this might be for you. I wish I had more to say about it, and I am so sorry that I just the whole book has just gone out of my head. I've just forgot about it. Okay, the next book, I think it was a fine memoir, but it wasn't for me. And this was truly I expected something completely different from it, and then it didn't deliver what I expected. So a lot of this is on me. And that is The Third Gilmore Girl by Kelly Bishop. This is, as you would think, this is Emily Bishop. She played Emily Bishop in Gilmore Girls, which is the grandmother of Lorelai and Rory Gilmore. She's affluent in the show, has these great one-liners, and the actress wrote a memoir. And so it's, it's about her life, her first marriage, finding love again, like her true love with her second marriage, the relationship she had with her mother. She was a Broadway performer as well. And I was like, I just want to know more about Gilmore Girls. Like, I could have taken 500 pages about Gilmore Girls because I love that show. And the more I know about it, the more I just absolutely adore it. And really what Kelly Bishop did, which it absolutely makes sense. Again, this is like, it was all me that I had my expectations far, it was just way outside what the book was promising, right? And so what this book did was that Kelly Bishop wrote about her whole life. I mean, how dare she in her own memoir? And so she was part of the development of A Chorus Line, which is a very famous Broadway play I've heard. I still don't know it. And like how she got into acting, how she transitioned from stage acting to on-camera acting or on-screen acting, all of that kind of stuff. And ultimately I was like, it was fine. It was entertaining. But I just wanted 500 pages about Gilmore Girls, so it was not for me. Though, there were some things about it that I still think about, especially as like a Gilmore Girls fan. So there's that. All right, let's move up. I would say the next is going to definitely be, should this have gone underneath the third Gilmore Girl? I don't know. The next, I think, is going to be Glorious Exploits, and I wonder if it's ranking sort of in the middle because I read it rather recently by Fredia Lennon. Now, I only mentioned that I listened to this as an audiobook because Fredia Lennon reads his own work, and he's he has this energy to his voice acting that I don't think would have been present if it was words on the page. I can't know that until I let the voice fade from my memory and I go back and read Glorious Exploits. But, it felt like Fredia Lennon was really translating how he wanted to write the novel with his voice acting of the novel. But, it has this Irish lilt. What it is that it's set during ancient times, and in ancient times, they have all these Athenian prisoners. I forget who. Anyways, and there is a play that is put on with the prisoners. And it's funny because Lampo, the main character, and he and his friend are the directors. And so it's kind of, it's cheeky because they're going around town and they're trying to figure out how to do costumes and how to do the set and getting the Athenians casting for the right role. So it's almost like this, in a lot of ways it's this prepping for the play and then doing the play itself, and then sort of all things go wild and crazy at the end. And it has like this rapid ending, this quite, not obscure, but this fun, over the top ending. It goes cuckoos bananas crazy off the rails at the end. There you go. And I think in some ways that was really fun. It was a fun book. I just think I'm very skeptical about how I consumed it and whether it would hold up on the actual page versus having listened to the book. And what's interesting is that a lot of people were like, you should listen to the book. And I'm like, okay, okay. Okay, so the next book, moving up the ranks, is The Mare by Angahara Hampshire, which is the story of Hermione Brunsteiner, who, when she was a housewife in New York, a reporter comes to her door and says that you were a concentration camp guard. Can you tell me about that experience? And I'm going to expose your past. Because it was, at that point when he knocks on her door, it's hidden. She immigrated to another country, she got married, and she has this past that she's hiding. which is interesting. So I think that, again, this is a debut, and in some ways it reads like a debut. There are things that feel kind of stiff and less fleshed out. There were certain things that bothered me about the way the story played out, which I think in some ways Angahara Hampshire, that was purposeful, but it still nevertheless kind of, bothered me. But one thing that I will give it credit for is that it sticks with you. The scenes stick with you. There were certain scenes that I'm just still like horrified by. Now I don't know. I still feel kind of mixed about the book, but I think that wrestling with the book, it has given me like my own pleasure with it. And so in some ways I think that is a marker of a good book that keeps you thinking about it, which it has. So that's why it's, it ranks where it's at, which is, I guess, third to the top, right? So then the ranking in second would be The Heiress by Rachel Hawkins. This is a super fun thriller. It's ridiculously fun. So it is about this grandmother that dies, and she has she had like several husbands. So part of the story is told in her voice through a journal that she kept. And so she's bestowing this great wealth on an adopted son, I believe. And so he, who doesn't want to have anything to do with his family, is like ripped back to his childhood home and, has to reckon with like his wild and cuckoos being crazy, like, not housemates, but family members. And so it's got this, and it's set in the Deep South, which is, it's just very Southern and has this like old Southern money feel to it in a very tongue-in-cheek way. And it has commentary on the money of the South. And so some of the characters, like the characterization of the actual, I think her name was Ruby, but her characterization herself was hilarious in some ways, like telling her own story and how she outlived all these husbands and, whether she may have something to do with their death or not. Like all of it was really, really fun and really great. And then you have these like other sort of unlikable characters throughout, and a couple of really likable characters that show out or show their true nature. It was just one of those books that was very fun and joyful and had like the quintessential unlikable character, but in like the best, most enjoyable, joyful kind of way. True escapist literature, but done incredibly well. Unlike All the Colors of the Dark, which I think I read after The Heiress, and I don't remember a thing about it. So that tells you something. And then the best book, I believe, the best book is The Queens of Crime by Marie Benedict. This was a ridiculously joyful read. So it is about female writers, one of them being, what is her name? Oh my gosh, Agatha Christie. Don't come for me, y'all. I looked up the names so that I don't get them wrong. We are doing, so there's this female detective club that forms of these female writers who are feeling like they're not taken very seriously, and they decide that they want to solve a murder. And so, yes, we have Agatha Christie, but our main character is Dorothy L. Sayers. Then we have Nio Marsh, Marjorie Allingham, the Baroness Emma Orczy, and they all called themselves together the Queens of Crime. And what was so great was that each character was truly a character unto herself. And that was hilarious. It was hilarious. And then they find a murderer. They're trying to investigate it. But really, it was about the female friendship and the like quirkiness of these characters that just played out so perfectly. I thought it played out so perfectly. It's set in London in the 1930s, and it was just so much fun. The murder mystery itself, like I remember the pieces to it, and it's fun. It's not like super difficult. It's easy to figure out. So really what you're there for is that you were there for the characters. And that was what was magical about it. I just love that. It was so good. And yeah, it turned me on to Marie Benedict in general, the other books that she's written. I hope that she makes the Queens of Crime a whole series, because all of the like truly all of the five female writers were so funny together. It was such a joyful read. And yeah, and some of the themes, like a woman's place in society, females trying to break into like a traditionally male dominated writing circle and feeling their place in the world and trying to challenge those barriers, those expectations placed on them, and all of that, all of that. So it's interesting because those themes were sprinkled in throughout, but they weren't like hammering you over the head. It was done in this really enjoyable way. So yeah, that was definitely my favorite. Yeah, and that's it. So, wow. So these were the books that I read. Some of them I read so you don't have to, truly. And others were just such a joy. They were such a joy to read. And what's funny is that I think, sort of as some closing thoughts, I think that, actually, of the 9, really like 3 were really, really good. Oh, gosh. Oh, no. I forgot to mention one of the books. One of the books is a book of poetry by Hannah Louise Poston, which was so exciting. This was probably the most meaningful book to me, because Hannah has a channel here on YouTube, and I have watched for years, probably 6 years, of her trying to get her book published, and her talking about it in like these tiny, these small ways of trying and not happening. And then when it happened, I was just thrilled. It won a first book prize. It's called Julia Hungry. It won a first book prize. And boy, I bought that on pre-order. I was so excited. And so I bought it a while ago, and then it was published, and I read it this year. And I'm actually going to meet Hannah. If if not today, like as you are watching this, I probably will have now met her, and I'm going to have her sign the book. And some of the poems in there were amazing. I want to reread it. Some of them were amazing, like really stick with you. There's one about Britney Spears and the way that she tells the story. It was so impactful. It was so interesting. And it's been interesting because I'm not normally somebody who follows another person's actual career with any kind of interest. But I've followed Hannah's for years, partly because I watch her YouTube channel, and partly because I've been rooting for this book of poetry to be published for 6 years. And for her, it was like 30 years in the making. So it was so cool to watch it actually come to fruition, and then to have the physical object in my own hand, knowing that I have been waiting for it and supporting it for all these years. So that truly, it was like reading that. It was like a moment for me. It was a true moment for me. So of the new releases, it's like 4 of them were really, really good. Couple were middling, and then a couple were not great. And I think with those odds, I'm choosing good new releases for me. It's always a risk because you just don't know. Whereas like the more that something has been reviewed, the more of like a clearer understanding I think you can get while going into the book. But here I stood on the front lines and I took one for the team, and in many ways quite a few of them paid off, and that's been great. So yeah, that's it from me. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate you, and I hope to see you all in my next one. Bye!